بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome to episode 26 of the authentic statements of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. In this episode, we take the statement of ibn Abbas r.a about how the people in the Arabian Peninsula started worshipping idols that was there in among the people of Nuh alayhi salam after Nuh. And as we know that after Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, after the flood happened, the only people left on earth after the flood were people who believed in Nuh alayhi salam as a prophet, who followed him, who believed in Allah, who worshipped him alone. And so ibn Abbas عنهما explains how idol worshipping started again. And talking about the idols, Wed, Sواع, يغوث, يعوق, Nasra, these idols that were worshipped in the Arabian Peninsula, these were the names of righteous people from amongst the people of Nuh alayhi salam. And when they passed away, when these righteous people passed away, Shaitan came to their people and he told them, set up statues in their names, in their places, with their, and name it after them. And so they did. And they didn't worship them. When they initially set up the statues and named them after these righteous people that had passed away from the people of Nuh, they did not worship them until that generation passed away, and then the next generation came, and knowledge was forgotten as to who these people were initially, and why their people set up statues in their name. Then the following generations, people started worshipping them. So Abdullah ibn Abbas عنهما is telling us how idol worshipping started again. And he's explaining how Shaitan works as well, and in small steps. Shaitan came to the people after Nuh alayhi salam, and when these righteous people passed away, he said, build statues in their place so you remember them. So you're not going to worship them, you're just going to remember how righteous they were, so you can continue on doing good deeds and be righteous the way they were. And so people did, and they didn't worship them initially. That's the thing. They didn't make these statues with the intention to worship them. They didn't make these statues when they initially made them, and they didn't worship them or fall into committing shirk yet. They just made statues, named them after these righteous people who passed away. And then after that generation passed away and the next generation came, and people forgot the knowledge that was there initially as to why they built these statues, who these people were, and until knowledge was scarce amongst the following generations, and they forgot where this started and what was it all about. Then they fell into, Shaitan came back, and people fell into worshipping these statues. They became idols, and they people in the Arabian Peninsula and later on were worshipping them. And so this shows us, this story shows us, first of all, how Islam closes the door to things that may lead down the road to things that are bad. So forming statues, some people might say, well, it's just a statue, I'm not worshiping it or anything. But we see in this example exactly how people started worshiping these statues, even though initially they weren't made for the purpose to be worshipped. Yet generation after generation, people fell into worshipping them. We also see how Shaitan works in small steps. Shaitan isn't going to come to people who are believers, who worship Allah alone, who don't commit shirk or kufr, and just try to get them to commit shirk. But rather he comes and he tries to just misguide them in one small step off the path of Allah. Because one small step later down the road leads to another step, a bigger step, until eventually he has misled them off of the path of Allah. And we know that, if we're going down the road, even if you're just a little bit off that path, you might be just, a few inches off, but which doesn't make much of a difference here in the short term, but in the long term, if you keep veering off a few inches off of that path, and in the long term, way down that road, way down that path, you're going to be way off that road. And so we see the importance of sticking to that path and not going off of it, not even one bit. Barakallahu fikum, jazakumullahu khaira, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.